All right, today I want to talk about why most personal trainers, gym owners fail to sell. They struggle to close consultations, and even if they can close consultations, why they're only getting far less money than they should be charging. So this video is going to walk you through the exact gym owner, personal trainer, group training, sales consultation framework that I've used and developed for over a decade to close thousands of fitness clients locally at higher than average local prices. I'm going to walk through the psychology of it all, where trainers and where you are mostly likely going wrong right now with your mindset and your delivery and the strategies and the structure of your overall consultations. And then we'll also talk about what to do instead, and I'll give you practical steps you can take away from this video. All right, so let's get into, first of all, the real reason trainers are not closing their consultations. So some of the main mistakes that I've seen after making these mistakes myself over the years and course correcting, and then working with hundreds of trainers worldwide. The first thing they do is they talk too much in the sales consultation. So if you're having a sit down with a prospect who's coming in, really the prospect needs to be doing most of the talking. How much? We're talking about 90% of the talking. Your goal is really just to ask good questions and guide them along, but we need the prospect to do most of the talking because that's how they're going to basically sell themselves on why they need to make this transformation. And the more information you can gather from the prospect, then that's going to better equip you to make a good diagnosis and to close the right package with that person. Now, the next mistake is pitching too early. And this means that most trainers are trying to sell a program or sell the outcome before they've even diagnosed what is the problem. So when it comes to sales, there's a basic fundamental principle that we first need to identify a problem that must be acknowledged by you and the prospect. You both have to identify and agree that there is an objective problem to be solved, because if you don't have that problem to be solved, there's nothing to sell. And that's where most trainers are digging themselves into failure, because they're rushing, they're presuming that the customer wants what they're offering, or they're presuming that the prospect even understands what they want and need. So you can't pre-assume anything, right? You have to get the prospect to talk so they realize for themselves what they need. So a fundamental principle in selling is that someone will never buy something that you've sold them. They're only going to buy something that you get them to sell themselves on. And that's the distinction. When they feel like it's their idea, because they did the talking and you just guided them to a natural conclusion, they basically sell themselves. So you need to get specific information through the course of the consultation. And there's about 5 or 6 key pieces of information you need that we will collect before we allow our coaches to pivot into the sales or the prescription. So before you can prescribe a solution, we need to diagnose the full problem. And most trainers don't do this. So in this video, you're going to learn how to do that, and it's going to have a big effect on your consultations. Not only will you sell more, but it's also going to make your consultations a lot more professional. Now, the biggest mistake here is that a lot of trainers will do the generic gym tour. And, you actually believe that people care about what kind of equipment you have and all this stuff. A basic gym tour, just talking about features, never works. I remember once I went, many years ago, I went to a brand new gym, big, gym club that had just opened, and they had all different things, like a leisure spa kind of place. And I went for a tour, and I remember that the person there was just taking me through the script of, this is the changing rooms, this is the swimming pool, this is the tennis courts. And I kept saying about 3 or 4 times to this person, I said, look, I only really care about the gym. I want to see what weight equipment you have. I'm not going to swim. I'm not going to play tennis. And they just kind of like nodded and then continued with the script like a robot, because that's what they were instructed to do. So they weren't actually listening to what I wanted. They could have cut the time and improved the chance of getting a sale just by listening to what I was looking for and taking me straight to that thing. So they weren't looking for solutions for me. They were just trying to explain all the features, and that's what a lot of gym owners are doing. So basically, every consultation you do with a prospect is going to be customized to a degree. We'll follow a format or a template, of course, but it's going to be customized around the needs and dial in on what that person needs and wants. So again, a big mistake here is focusing on the features and talking about the program, not on the person and the outcomes they're going to get. So trainers I see go far too much into detail with a prospect in a consultation, because the prospect will ask things like, hey, on your nutrition plan, am I allowed to eat peanuts? Or on your nutrition program, how is this going to work? How is that going to work? And if you follow the prospect's frame and you dive into the nitty gritty things, which you haven't even been able to customize for them yet, then basically what you're doing is you're enabling them to talk themselves out of it. See, what a prospect is doing at that point, if they get really into nitty gritty details, they might have some genuine concerns, but most of the time, they're just trying to bring up and find some kind of excuse of why it won't work for them. So you need to negate all of that and focus on the outcome at the end of the day and say, hey, you know what? We're going to get you the nutrition plan that's going to fit your lifestyle, overcome whatever obstacles or skepticisms you have, and it's going to work for you, right? Because it's going to be customized. So you don't need to get into the nitty gritty on things. The next mistake is trainers are handling objections way too late, or really, I guess, it's trying to handle objections without having the ammunition to do so. So we handle objections as far close to the start of the consultation or before as we possibly can. So I've got another video on our pre-show up consultation system, which shows you how we qualify and overcome a lot of objections by nurturing and educating our prospects before they arrive. And you can find that video on the channel. So we handle a lot of objections before the person even turns up. When the person does turn up, we then want to start looking for red flags. And basically what you need to do is you need to flip the mindset here, that it's not about you waiting for the customer's objections. We are trying to find our own objections to them. We're trying to find the red flags in this prospect before they find them with us. And that flips the frame completely. We're the ones interviewing them. We're the ones filtering for them. They need us more than we need one person. So we're actually trying to find their red flags and pick out objections we might have about them. Like, are they really going to be committed? Do they really want to make a transformation? Are they going to actually follow the program we give them, right? We're looking to handle those objections. So the result is, if you make these kind of typical mistakes, is you're going to have low close rates. You're going to get constant need to think about it, a lot of price resistance, and awkward consultations. So let's go over then what you actually need to do. Now, in the high closing consultations we do, this is the process we follow. We've installed this sales system into dozens of studios of our own and other gyms around the world. And we consistently see, no matter which country it's in, no matter what kind of market it's in, the trainers who follow this system will close 60 to 90% of the consultations, and they'll close them into a higher ticket package. And we're seeing that right now in all countries, all continents. So this is the principles that they're following. The first layer of our high ticket closing framework is going to be to diagnose the person's goals. You have to get into this, like I mentioned earlier, we have to identify objectively and agree with the prospect there's a problem that you need to be solved, right? So what do they actually want? What is the gap between where they are now and where they want to be? You have to identify that. Otherwise, you have nothing to close them on. You have no gap to fill, right? It's like if you were selling a taxi service, you'd have to ask the customer first, hey, we're here at we're at LAX airport, and you want to go to New York, right? So now we know, okay, I know now where you are. I know where you want to be. I can now tell you what I need to get you there. Is it going to be a taxi, an aeroplane? And I can tell you what the price is going to be. If we don't know the destination for the person, or the gap or the journey from where they are to where they want to be, we don't know what they need, and therefore we can't give them a price. So you have to know, you establish the consult as soon as possible with, this is point A where you are, and you want to be at point B, and you're not there yet, and you haven't been able to do it on your own. Can we agree on that? That is the fundamental layer of the consultation conversation, and trainers just take too long to get to that. Okay, layer number 2 then is to uncover the person's emotional pain. So now you've figured out where they are now. The next question is, what is it costing them to stay there? So again, it's where are you now? What is your current situation? And more importantly, what is it costing you to stay there? This is a critical tip. If you take this away, it'll change your consultations. Because the prospect during this process, they are just focused on, what is this program going to cost me? What's it going to cost me to do this program? We need to shift their focus throughout the conversation to instead look at, what is going to be the cost of you to not do this program? What is going to be the cost to not make this change? What is going to be the cost to your health, to your relationships, financially, emotionally? And we're going to draw out all the pain that they're in right now, and then we can ask them if they're okay with that. Right? Because we ultimately want to start making an identity level shift. So we need to find out the emotional pain of why they are dissatisfied right now. If you don't get this, again, if you don't extract this from them, you'll have nothing to sell later. And this is all why it's critical that the prospect does most of the talking. After that then, once we've discovered why they're unhappy where they are right now and what the situation is, we can then explore, what have they tried already that hasn't worked? This is super important because we need to, before we present our program, we need to know what they've tried. We need to know what they don't like. We need to know their beliefs and suspicions, because maybe they've tried a personal trainer before and it didn't work. So we don't want to be sounding the same in our offer as something they already tried. We need to dig into what they tried before and why they think it didn't work for them. And again, that's important, not why you think it didn't work for them, even though you're probably going to be right. We have to understand why they think it didn't work. So you can then position yourself differently as a unique, different solution they have not tried yet. So we have to go into what they've tried before, because ultimately we're going to then extrapolate and show them and educate them that the reason all those other things failed is because they didn't include the complete package or the complete features of what you're going to offer. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So the next layer then, you found out what they have tried and why it hasn't worked. So we're starting to understand what they feel they actually do need to get from A to B. Now we're going to look at consequences and urgency. So we need to know, what is their level of commitment? And you can challenge the prospect firmly but fairly on asking them, what's going to happen if nothing changes? How content are you about nothing changing? Right? Now, if this only works if you've done step 2 and you've uncovered emotional pain, because most trainers don't uncover this, they're not able to do layer 4 because the person hasn't told you they're in any pain yet. So you have to uncover the emotional pain, and then you can challenge them to say, okay, how important is it to you to change this? And then finally, once we've got that information through those 4 layers, we can prescribe the solution. And now you can honestly and genuinely show them that, hey, I understand where you are and where you want to be. I understand the things you've tried or the obstacles on the road to getting there. And now, because I know that, I can now share what I feel is the best program for you, because I can now link the features of our program to the obstacles that you've previously come up against, right? So now they know that you've listened to them, and it makes it a lot more customized. So when you do it this way, the prospect has a lot more certainty that it's going to work for them. You get far less objections because you've laid it out in a better direction. You can get a way higher close rate and make easier sales. So ultimately, remember this, the sale is made before you give the price. You need to diagnose, first of all, connect with a prospect, show you understand what they're going through and what they need, create the certainty that you understand everything, and you show them that the reason they have not succeeded is because each thing they tried was missing a certain element. And then you can prescribe your solution, and you will highlight the features of your program that specifically overcomes those stated obstacles. So for example, if they said, I tried a diet before that had the nutrition aspect, but it wasn't sustainable or fun to do, and I didn't know what exercise to do with it, so I didn't get that good results. And then I tried going to the gym where I could exercise all day, but I didn't have any personal guidance, and I wasn't following a nutrition plan. So you can then show them, hey, so the reason those things have failed is not because of you, it's because you were missing a fundamental step. And what we tell prospects is that, in our program, the reason we have a 97% success rate on our program, even though those women have tried everything before, is because our program combines all the elements you need, such as the right exercise for your body type, the right nutrition plan that is tasty and healthy and fun to stick with, and the professional guidance and coaching and accountability, so you have the right program for you and you're kept in check. So when you have all these things together, which you've never previously had, that's how you're finally going to unlock the success that you want. That's the creating of certainty. And then you can simply, once they buy into that belief and you can see they understand what you're saying, then you can present your solution, which basically just gives those three things. And now they understand the value of it. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions on that, drop a comment below, or comment below if this helps you out, and drop a like and subscribe to the channel if this is helping you grow your gym. And let me know what is your questions about sales consults. Let me know if you have any other content you want me to go into. Just comment below and I'll talk to you soon.